Welcome to the Music Nut Program. I'm John. Thank you so much for joining me today. And welcome back to the latest edition of the Album War. This is an album war that has been requested and anticipated. Thank you, Eric Robertson. Thank you, Jake Knott from State Farm, for suggesting this topic and three of the four albums I'm going to talk about in this fatal four-way today for the album Up. UP Up. As the great Ed Darian once said, let's meet the principals. This is one of the finest artists of our lifetimes. Whether you're talking about the work he did on those great progressive rock albums with Genesis or the work he's done as a solo artist, those first few albums were critical favorites and they really gained a strong following before he broke open with the So album 1986. I'm talking about Peter Gabriel with his album from September 24, 2002, his seventh album, Up. This next artist is the newest of the four artists I'm going to talk about. This band is still active. As a matter of fact, they put out an album on March 21, 2025. This is the great post-grunge band from Michigan, United States, Pop Evil, with their fourth album called Up. This next band is no longer active, although there have been rumors they might go out and tour again. This is one of my probably 10 or 15 favorite bands. And they were very popular in the 80s, but then they really broke through in the 90s with a succession of platinum albums. They changed their sound a little bit on every album, but on this album, they really changed their sound when their drummer left the band. I'm talking about R.E.M's 11th album from October 26, 1998, called Up. Up to four artists I'm going to talk about today. This is the one you could probably say is the superstar that reached into the masses. This would be the third of her three diamond albums in the United States. Clearly part of that country crossover into the pop charts in the 1990s and 2000s. I'm talking about Shania Twain with her fourth album released on November 19, 2002, called Up. So let's get into the artist here. First one we got is Peter Gabriel, the teardrops on his face on the cover. This album would be his first in 10 years. His album from 1992 was called Us. This is an album that took him years to make, and Geffen Records really got on him for putting this, for come on, put this out. It's an album about death. It's a very deep and dense album, 10 songs, 67 minutes, plethora of musicians on this, most notably the great Tony Levin. This album would not give him any big hits in the United States. It would not even go gold, as a matter of fact, although it hit number 9 on the Billboard Top 100 album charts. This album would give us 4 singles. None of them would really be hits. And the first single would not be anything that sounds like the rest of the album. It's probably the closest thing to an upbeat song on the album. We go into the tracks. Darkness is very dramatic in its proceedings, going from soft to loud. It's a decent opener. Growing Up would be one of the singles. This is very kinetic and very catchy. I like this song a lot. Sky Blue is a lot more solemn. We got some wonderful harmonies, like gospel harmonies to me, and that work very well. No Way Out is still in that same vein as Sky Blue. It's very, very somber, very effective. I Grieve, it's more of a piano ballad. There is some drama in here, Wonderful performance from Peter on vocals. The Barry Williams Show would be the single. This is a satire on those TV shows, those crash TV shows like the Jerry Springer Show back at that time. It sounds nothing like the rest of the album. It's kind of bouncy. He's got these cool horn lines, and it's decent. My head sounds like that. It's kind of all over the place. It's decent. More Than This was another single. More Than This works very well, and it's my favorite song on the album. Signal to Noise is very sad. Too much for me. And I like albums that are dramatic and have a range of emotions, but this is just a little too depressing for me personally. The drop ends the album on a somber note. It's a short piano ballad that ends very well as a closer. So with this album here, Up, Peter continued to challenge himself as an artist. It does take a lot of listens to really get into it, and that's why I took a little while to put this one out because I wanted to give this about 10 listens or so before I can come to a conclusion on it. This is an album that I like. There's certain songs on here I really like. I don't know how often I would go back to it though, but I definitely wanted to give it fair praise and not just listen to it once or twice and say, oh, this isn't my thing. So there's Peter Gabriel's Up. Next, we'll go into Pop Evil's Up. And this is the latest of the four albums. This came out on August 21, 2015 on E1 Music. This album's the tightest of the albums that we're going to talk about here. 13 songs, although one of them is very short, not even 50 minutes. And this was their fourth album. They do have an extended version of this album as well. And as I mentioned, this band is still active, just put out a new album. The band is Lee Cockatee on lead vocals, Nick Fueling on lead guitar and backing vocals, Dave Graz on rhythm guitar, backing vocals, Matt Dorito on bass and backing vocals, Joshua Burundi on drums. Lee, Nick, and Dave are still in the band today. And this album hit really hard on the mainstream rock charts, but before I go into that, it did hit number 25 on the Billboard Top 200 album charts. We got four singles on here in Footsteps, Ways to Get High, Take It All, and If Only for Now. They all hit the top five on the mainstream rock charts. In fact, Footsteps would go to number one, be a gold single for them. How's this album? Well, I'll tell you straight out. Thank you, Jake, not for State Farm, because this was your suggestion for this album. I think I found a new band I'm going to get more stuff by and go to see live because this album kicks. And it's in my regular rotation now. Eventually, I started listening to this more for enjoyment, not to do this show. That's how much I like this. And I'm getting more into the 90s and 2000s rock sound the last few years, but just to let you know that I want to listen to some of the stuff that I missed. This is a band that I missed, and I'm glad I caught them now. The single that opens the album, Footsteps, is a barn burner. A lot of great riffs on this album, particularly on the song Core and In Disarray. Take It All has some great vocal hooks on here that work very well. I could see why this was a big hit on mainstream rock radio. Ghost of Muskegon, the band's from Muskegon, Michigan. This hits hard. If Only for Now is more melodic. When they get melodic, they sound a lot like Foo Fighters, and I mean that as a good thing. Adam Casper produced this album. He produced albums for the Foo Fighters as well as Soundgarden and Pearl Jam. I could see why this was very successful. Excellent song, great bridge on it. You know, I love my bridges. Wonderful track. Ways to Get High is the next track. This was also a single. I could see why this was successful too. These songs are really growing on me and really kicking my ass. Lux has some great riffs on it. Vendetta's very strong as well. Dead in the Water is very catchy. Great chorus on here. Very well done. The songs on the near the end of this album are as strong as the ones in the beginning. This isn't an album that really wavers at the end. This stays strong throughout. Seattle Rain is the power ballad on here. I think with great acoustic guitars on here, great delivery. I think this works very well. Till Kingdom Come is a wonderful closer. Pop Evil's up, kicks tail. It's very, very good. And we go to R.E.M's Up from October 26, 1998. Let me just get a drink before I move on. So this was their 11th album, and this was definitely a change of pace for them because Bill Berry left the band, their drummer, their original and longtime drummer. They changed their sound here. They relied more on outside drummers like Barrett Martin and Joey Waronker, but a lot of synthesized drum machines. When I first heard this album, when my friend, I haven't seen him a long time, but Gavascus, if you're watching this, hello, I hope you're well. When he introduced me to this album as a new release back in 1999, I did not like this album at all. I did a show on this album on my friend Peter Kerr's channel, Rock Daydream Nation. We both talked about how Up was a down album. I liked it more then, a lot more than I did when I originally heard it, but I still wasn't high on the album. I like it more than I did 2 years ago. Still not one of my favorite. It's one of my least favorite REM albums, but there's still a lot to offer on here. It's a very diverse album. But Lotus, which was one of the singles, this works very well. This was the second single off the album. Suspicion is it's a lot more mellow, a lot more atmospheric. This was the last single on the album. I think this is wonderful. Excellent. Hope, those synthesizers just don't do it for me on this song. Leonard Cohen was a co-writer on this. He's given co-writing credits because when you listen to this song, if you're a Leonard Cohen fan, you will recognize that this melody is Suzanne from Leonard Cohen's self-titled debut, The Songs of Leonard Cohen. I was never really into this track though, and a lot of it's just because those keyboards are just too high in a mix for me. Now, At My Most Beautiful is REM finding their inner Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys, and I think this is wonderful. The Apologist is a song that Peter and I were not very fond of when we talked about it on his show. I'm still not high on this at all. Sad Professor, I feel totally different. I think this song is killer, but it's a grower. I think the song has layers to it, and it's a sad song, but I love the way it's constructed. It's one of my favorites on the album. You're in the Air is more breezy. Michael Stipe's vocal on here is wonderful. Another good track on here. Walk Unafraid doesn't really jump out at me. It never really did. Why Not Smiles, a little more whimsical, and I do like that. Day Sleeper was the song that we both spoke highly of. This was the first single off the album. It hit number 57 in the United States. It would hit number 6 in the UK. This is more of an acoustic song and it works very well. Diminished, I like a lot. It's a lot more, it's a moodier song, a lot more quiet, but I like it a lot. This works very well. Parakeet is okay, doesn't really jump out at me. Falls to Climb, I think, is a good closer. And I think, again, Michael Stipe sounds very strong on the closer. Not one of my favorite albums by REM, but I these days I give it a 6.5. I'll go into my ratings in a little bit, but there's REM's Up. Now, and that album went gold after a whole bunch of albums went platinum for REM. So it wasn't one of their most successful ones. In fact, I don't know if they may have hit platinum on Reveal. I'd have to double check that, but it's not one of their more successful albums. But when we talk about a successful album, we have to talk about Shania Twain's album from 2002 called Up. Now, this would be the third of 3 albums that would go diamond, which means 10 million copies or more sold in the United States. This went 11 times platinum. So this had 8 singles worldwide, 6 singles in the United States in I'm Gonna Get You Good, Up, Forever, and For Always. She's Not Just a Pretty Face. It Only Hurts When I'm Breathing, and When You Kiss Me. But this album, it's very long, 19 tracks, 73 minutes. The thing with this album is a lot of tempos stay the same, and we got a lot of good songs on here. But it starts to sound samey after a while. Now, Up is okay. We have just came out in 3 versions. Most notably, it had the country version and the pop version. I listened to the country version right here. There she is. Country version doesn't sound much different than the pop version because of this over-the-top production provided by Mutt Lange, who was then Shania's husband, along with Simon and Diamond DeGaulle. We got a ton of musicians playing on this. And there's craftsmanship here, certainly. A lot of great songs here, certainly. Very samey. I'm Gonna Get You Good was the first single. I like that a lot. Up, the second single, not into as much. She's Not Just a Pretty Face would be the fourth single. This is one of my 2 or 3 favorite songs on this album. This is very good. Forever and For Always was a top 20 hit here in the United States on the pop charts. And a lot of these songs, of course, did very well in the country charts as well. That's very good. Interesting on here, some of the mixes of instruments on here, because we got banjos and mandolins and pedal steels, sometimes mixed in with these 90s sounding strings that you'd hear on these R&B songs from there. And then even the piano sounds more R&B. It's kind of a good mix. It's interesting. Sometimes the songs work, sometimes not so much. It Only Hurts When I'm Breathing's good. Ain't No Particular Way does sound like R&B meets country. That Good, Want to Get to Know You That Good is very good. That's more in the country vein. That works well. Some of these other songs, Ka-Ching is decent. Waiter, Bring Me Water. The deep cuts, some of these are good. Waiter, Bring Me Water is very good. What a Way to Wanna Be has a great chorus on it. In My Car, I'll Be the Driver's. A lot of fun. When You Kiss Me is a wonderful tearjerker ballad that ends the album. C'est La Vie, I'm Jealous. They're all good. There's some good stuff. I Ain't Going Down. So, to me, it is more of a good collection of songs. It does sound samey after a while. To me, I would cut this down to like a 12-song album. I think it would have been more effective. But in 2002, we're going with quantity over quality. We're going the opposite way these days, more like we did in the 70s and the 80s. But I wouldn't knock this out. It's not in my wheelhouse. I'll say that right now. But I will say there are a lot of good songs on here. I think the big hits from the previous albums, The Woman in Me and Come On Over, are stronger and I think have aged better. But this is very well done. So, who wins the album war? Well, let me get out the album covers and let you know. R.E.M. Up, I give a 6.5. Peter Gabriel's Up, probably a 6.5 as well. And 6.5 is still good in my view, just to let you know. I'm not saying it's mediocre. There are a lot of songs I like on both these albums. Shania Twain, I give a 7, just because it's a little too long, a little too samey. There's a lot of good songs on here, though, too. 8.5. In my opinion, Pop Evil wins today's album war. Check this band out. If maybe you're not into 2000s rock or 2010s rock. Okay, I get it. You want to hear something a little different, very melodic, very well done, great riffs on here, good hooks on a lot of these songs. Check out Pop Evil. So Pop Evil in my opinion, wins the album war for the album Up. Let me give another thank you to Eric Robertson and Jake Knott from State Farm for suggesting this topic and for coming up with all these albums except for R.E.M., which I have already owned. What do you think of these albums and artists? What do you think? What is your favorites of these four albums? I know there's a lot of other artists who have released albums called Up. The first one I thought of was Right Said Fred. Do you think I should have talked about them? Do you like those albums a little bit more? Please let me know in the comments. There will be a lot more album wars coming up in the future, as well as album after episodes. The end of the It's Chris Whitley Wednesday series will be on Wednesday, April 16, 2025, where I will rank all of the studio albums by Chris Whitley. I will talk about his anthology album that spanned 1991 to 2001 and talk a little bit about his two live albums as well. And then where I will go from there, well, there'll be plenty going on. There'll be a lot of single album reviews down the pike. So, thank you so much for joining me today. Do what you love, and I'll talk to you soon.